Welcome to our show. Every week I'm doing these videos, and it's because I'm running a program about financial freedom, healing your money story, all the stories that we tell ourselves about money and how to heal that, how to heal it at its root. So a lot of people do programs like this, but for us it's really about helping people get to a discovery, like where is this coming from? Why am I so stuck around money or in a poverty complex or scarcity complex? So we're going to be talking a lot about avoidance today. What I've been doing lately is really focusing on money, because money is about value, right? It's about how we value ourselves. It's about how, actually when I said the word value, evaluate almost came out of my mouth. And that makes me think of, it's how we not only value ourselves, but sometimes it's how we evaluate ourselves. And that's kind of bad. You don't want to evaluate yourself based on how much money you make. That's not your value. So we get mixed up a little bit about what, like how much money we have is our value. Our value should not have anything to do with how much money we have. It has to do with our heart. It has to do with how much love we have in our body and how we show up for ourselves and other people. That's your value. So the first thing we want to work on is how to separate those two things. The topic I want to talk about today, though, specifically, is avoidance. How we avoid our money, how we avoid talking about money, how we avoid talking about debt, how we avoid talking about anything that has to do with money in general, right? Okay, so we'll go into the topic in a minute, but I just wanted to say a few things. The first thing is I am cat and dog and house sitting in this beautiful house, my cousin's house in Olympia. And so if you hear any dogs or cats or meows or barks, just know that I am pet sitting. So it's a laugh a minute. It's all sorts of energy everywhere. I never know what's going to happen. So you might just get a peek of the doggy or the kitty, or I might have to go do something and go, I don't know, if the dog's outside barking at the next door neighbor or something, I may have to go rescue her or rescue myself from being embarrassed about that. But anyways, so yes, so there's that. And also I just want to say hi to you. Welcome you. Thank you for being on this chat. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. I think it's funny. I'm doing a video about avoidance, and I know a lot of you that clicked on it are like, "Oh shit, I avoid stuff all the time." But I just want to acknowledge the fact that you did not avoid this video. You clicked on it and you're listening to it, which makes me know and lets you know that you're showing up for yourself right now, right? You're not avoiding it. You clicked on it. There is probably some stuff I'm going to talk about that's going to be really uncomfortable for you to hear or for you to think about in your own experience, and you're here. So pat yourself on the back, give yourself a hug. I wanted to first start out with, if you're seeing the intro here and you're like, I know I am in a state of avoidance sometimes about things, but I don't understand what she means by financial avoidance. What does that mean? So I wrote down, and I wanted to talk about a few scenarios, real life scenarios where financial avoidance might be prevalent in your life, so that you can understand what does that even mean. So the first one might be if you are so afraid of looking at your bank account that you are frozen. So avoidance would be, I never look at my bank account. I never look at my bank account because I'm scared of what I'll see there. I don't want to see how little or how much money I have. I want to pretend it doesn't even exist. Another, like a larger macro scale of that is I want to pretend money doesn't even exist. I don't care about money. So that might be a belief of avoidance is, oh, money's not a big deal. Like money it's just, it's not something that I pay attention to in my life. It's fine. It'll be provided for me. I don't have to worry about it. You know what? Like money is just greed and evil. And so it's bad. Money is bad. So I'm just going to pay attention to my life and love. It's good to pay attention to your life and love, but it's also good to be accountable for yourself. Because money, like it or not, it's like food. You have to have it every day. So if we have any kind of avoidance or food addiction, it's the same thing as having any kind of avoidance or money addiction. So like greed can be the same thing as avoiding it, right? So it's really about how to heal, like I say in the description here, how to heal your money story, how to heal that story about avoidance. So one of those scenarios. So if any of you speak up, if any of you do that same thing where you're like, hell no, I don't want to look at it. I don't even want to think about it. I want to pretend like money doesn't exist. And I'll have some people that say like, oh, I don't worry about money. It's not a big deal. And I'm like, well, what about if you didn't have any money at all? Would it be a big deal then? Probably yes. So it's important in general to pay attention to things in our lives, right? And if you're not avoiding, or if you're not looking at your money and you're avoiding your bank account and you're trying to pay as little attention then what else are you avoiding? We'll get into that in a second because and I know that a lot of people in transformational realms and stuff like that have heard this before, but if you're avoiding something in one part of your life, how's that showing up in other parts of your life? If you're avoiding something somewhere in one place, it's going to be showing up all over your life, right? It's going to show up in your relationships. You're avoiding relationships. You're avoiding anything else like work. Let's say you know that if you applied yourself that you could get a promotion, or that you really don't like this work that you're doing, but you're just doing it to survive, and you know that like it's severely limiting you in your life, but you keep doing it anyway. That's avoidance. So how are you showing up not only in your money story about avoidance, but everywhere else? So avoidance scenarios might be not looking at your bank account. Another avoidance scenario with money might be buying something without thinking. So just buying tons of shit and just being like, doesn't matter, I'll just put it on my credit card, like I'll figure out later, it's fine. And this is what I get caught up in, is that since I'm a manifester, I'm like, you know what, it'll work out, it's cool. Like, this is how I avoid. I'll be like, I know if I just spend whatever I want to on this thing, it'll all work out in my favor. I'm being supported spiritually. Yes, all of those things are true, and I still get to be accountable and responsible for how I'm showing up in my own life. Because when you're accountable for how you're showing up in your own life, it shows up in your relationships with others. It shows up in how you value yourself. It shows up in, oh, I'm not avoiding myself or when you're avoiding your financial situation, you're probably avoiding yourself. You're probably avoiding your own health. You're probably avoiding other things in your life that you could be healing. If you paid attention. And a lot of people think like, well, I'm avoiding it because if I was to look at it for 2 seconds, it would overwhelm me and I can't have that. Yes, there is some level of overwhelm with, holy shit, I have to do this work, but there's also a sense of empowerment. Like, look what I'm doing. I'm looking at a place that I didn't look before. There was something that I used to avoid that I'm not doing anymore. So when you notice, whether in this video or otherwise, that you avoid things, and I'm saying this to me, and you're like, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid, start looking at my bank account every day, and start thinking of ways how I can empower myself to not avoid my life anymore. Or I could have done this video about finances, and it can make you realize, oh, I'm avoiding my relationship with this person, or something else that's not even about money. And then you go and empower yourself to heal yourself through that, okay? So it doesn't have to just be about this, but that's what we're talking about in this video. So the next thing, so buying something without thinking about how it's going to affect your finances, okay? Or thinking about how it's going to affect others. Just, I'm going to do it, like credit card, like don't have to worry, it's fine. Until it comes all crashing down and you're like, holy shit, and you're either bankrupt and you have so much debt you can't see straight and you're like, oh no. So this is what we're trying to avoid, is we're trying to avoid getting to a place where everything comes crashing down and you're like, oh shit. So would you rather look at it now and take empowered steps to healing the trauma and healing whatever's going on? Or would you like to continue avoiding it and waiting for the big tower to crumble at the end? Because I can tell you, I do a lot of psychic work, I do a lot of intuitive work, and I see it all the time with the more that someone avoids something, sure, you may avoid pain and you may stay safe for the next 3 years, but in 3 years, something really bad is going to happen. And you're going to be like, oh shit, I should have listened to her. I should have done the thing, or I should have ripped off the Band-Aid and just started working on it, because life is too effing short to get in this stupid pattern. And it's not a stupid pattern. It's there for a reason, to protect you, to keep you safe, but it's also there because of your childhood. And we'll talk about that in a second. The third scenario is something that I know a lot of my friends get kind of used to or in the pattern of, and it's because since they were young or since they met the person that supports them, that they've put all responsibility on that. And so the last thing, or the scenario I wrote down, is depending on someone else to take care of all your finances so that you can continue to avoid. You don't probably know at the time that you're doing that in order to keep avoiding, because that's, again, keeping you safe. And I'll talk about that more in a second. But so how many of you are out there depending on someone else, say it's in a marriage or your mom and dad, or someone else takes care of your finances? Who out there, raise your hand, don't avoid it, be real, say it loud, say it proud. It's a part of codependence a little bit, but it's also just contributing to more avoidance, right? So I'm seeing some likes, I'm seeing some hearts. So if you don't want to say it in the chat, I understand. Just put a few emojicons and emojis, whatever. I switched words. You get it. So actually emojis, that's kind of a cute word. So yes. So if you are with someone and they're doing all your finances for you, and it's actually an easy way to be like, oh, we're in a marriage and I do this part of the marriage and they do that part of the marriage. But at the same time, it's very important for everyone to be involved in their family's financial environment. I do this a lot where I'll work with someone and they want to talk to me about coaching, and I talk to them about investing in my programs, and the first thing they say is, I got to ask my spouse. And I say, well, where else do you have to ask for permission in your life? That's not to say that I'm dismissing that they have to talk to their family and their spouse or their loved ones about money situations, especially with kids and everything else. It's very important that you have that open conversation. I'm not telling someone just do it without taking responsibility or talking to your spouse. But at the same time, it can be used as a trickery, right? As an avoidance, a way of avoiding. So let's say in the scenario of someone wanting to work with me, but saying, no, I got to ask my spouse. It's an easier way just to keep avoiding the situation and not get healing, instead of to push yourself to maybe take the next step, whatever that is. So avoidance can be saying, someone else takes care of that, I don't do it. And it's an easy way to avoid because it doesn't make you look irresponsible, because you're really saying like, no, this person takes care of that and I'm responsible in my own way by doing that. So it's a good, easy, simple way of staying safe and not having to look at it. I want everyone to know that I'm not vilifying them or looking down on them or saying like, you do this and you shouldn't and why are you avoiding. I want to make sure that people know that I'm not judging you and that you shouldn't judge yourself. Everyone has financial issues and they deal with it in a different way. So it's very important to acknowledge all these things as they're happening, laugh at it, not make it a big deal. Anytime you feel fear or discomfort coming around something, shake it up and laugh a little bit. So when I get in a fear state around money, which I still do all the time, I force myself to laugh and smile. It's the weirdest. I had a call, Scott, you're in here. We had a call a little bit about our money. We have a call every 2 weeks about our money story. And I will sit there. I was talking about how I would have fear, or I had fear around a specific money thing. And I forced myself to laugh. And I was like, I feel so stupid in this room, like forcing myself to laugh because I wanted to shift myself out of fear and out of worry. And I'm like, because I know how deteriorative it is to my moving forward and to getting more money and to getting more, putting more impact into this world. Like I want that stuff to be gone so I don't worry about it, right? So I forced myself to laugh, and then I was like, I feel and look really stupid. And then I actually laughed because I thought about how stupid I looked forcing myself to laugh. All of a sudden, I forgot what I was even worried about. And I literally forgot all about money because I was so just caught up in laughing at myself and how stupid I looked, and I was on to the next thing, making dinner for myself or something. So I guess that might be a form of avoidance as well. But it was basically in the moment when you're in a fear space or a worry space, the sure thing to keep money from coming to you is to keep worrying. The more that you worry, it shows up as resistance and pushing and obsessive. It's like obsessive energy. Worry is an obsessive energy. And money is free flowing, it's energy, right? And the more that you worry about something, the more it's going to try to run away from you, because it's like, you're judging me, you're worried about me, you're freaking me out. It's like if anyone that has kids out there, and the more that you worry and ask them like, where were you? What were you doing? The more they're not going to want to talk to you. It's going to be really hard for a child when they're going through something hard to say, I'm going to talk to my mom or dad about this, because if you judge them for that, they already know I can't go to my mom and dad and tell them what's going on in my life, because I already know they're going to judge me for it. So it's the same thing with money, and it's the same thing with this maybe codependent relationship with money, right? So letting go of fear, laughing at fear, just feeling all of the things and being okay with it, acknowledging your fear and your pain. It's okay. Amy says something about her parents helping her out when she's in a tight spot. So I want to make sure that I'm not mixing up things, that if you are in need of money or something's going on and you're asking for support, it's important to know that that's very healthy. It's very healthy to ask for support when you're dealing with money issues, because that's not avoidance. So Amy, I want you to know that when you're having trouble with money, or you don't know what to do around it, and you actually reach out and ask for somebody's support, that's not avoidance. That's actually being very responsible for your money story. That's showing up and saying, hey, I don't know what to do right now and I need support. That's huge. So I want to make sure, thank you for bringing that up, because I want to make sure that there's a delineation between avoiding money, which is like, oh, I let another person look at the finances so I don't have to. That's different than asking for support when you need help with rent or something. So keep doing that. Keep reaching out for help and support. And it's okay to show up like that in your life, because we all need support and connection and love. That's what we're here to do, like I said. So thank you for bringing that up, Amy. Scott says, I usually say in context when I'm feeling like the person is being avoidant is convince yourself that you want this first, if that's what you want, and you'll be able to convince your spouse by your own clarity and congruence. So that's a good thing to think about is if you're feeling like a person is being avoidant, you'll want to, let's see, I usually say in context when I'm feeling like the person is being avoidant is convince yourself that you want this first. So if you want something and you are all of a sudden saying, oh, I need to ask my spouse instead of really thinking inside, the first thing you want to do is say, and I say this to people that are wanting to do my coaching programs is, not only do you want this, but do you think that there's value in working with me? If you know that there's value in working with me, but there's time or money, or I can't do it because kids and everything else, if there's another conversation coming in, then there's something we need to look at that's saying like, well, then you're devaluing yourself, or there's some kind of situation. If you know that this is going to value you, then you're letting fear step over that, right? So first you'll want to convince yourself, like Scott says, that this is what you want first by knowing that there's value in that. And then if you fully know that there's value in that and that you're going to help yourself heal with my help at a high level, and not only will that affect your life, but it will help your relationship with your husband. It will help your relationship with your kids. It will help your relationship with money and everything else. When you know that, yes, it may take a little bit of risk to invest in something new or to do something new by not avoiding it, that what you're going to get out of it is so much better and that you're going to value yourself more at the end of it, then it'll be easier for you to go to the person that you're talking to about finances and saying, look, I talked to this person about this. I had a feeling in my head that your first reaction was going to be like, no, we can't do that. But that's a story I'm telling myself, because what I really know is that if you really support me, you'll help me in not avoiding this anymore and talking about it, so we can help heal my family, we can help heal each other, our relationship, etc. So that example is specifically if we're in scenario number 3 where we need to ask permission, or where we might be avoiding our money story by pushing it on to someone else. Does that make sense? Scott also said, Scott, thank you for bringing that up. Scott says these scenarios are great. Number 2 is such a sneaky one. Yes, so the number 2 is buying someone without thinking about how it's going to affect your finances. Very sneaky, especially if you're going to Target, where you're there for 5 minutes and all of a sudden you have $200 worth of shit in your cart. What really helps me with number 2, which is the buying a bunch of shit that you may or may not need, is before you go to the checkout counter, look at your whole shopping cart, evaluate what you've got, and put a bunch of stuff back that you really don't need that you may have got in the moment. I do that at the grocery store, Target, or shopping for clothes. I will go at the last minute and I will take my cart aside and I'll look at it and I'll be like, okay, what do I really need right now? What will support me in supporting my family in health and wellness? What does not? What is something I just grabbed and was like, ooh, Rice Krispie treats. Yeah, that sounds good. And later like, no, I probably don't need that. So put this aside. I'm not talking shit about Rice Krispie treats, y'all. I love Rice Krispie treats, okay? So just thinking about, actually, I know people that do this. They'll go to a store, put a bunch of stuff in their cart, they'll scratch that itch, and then they'll leave without anything in the cart. This is still working toward healing. That's not something I may recommend to everybody, because that's still like the addiction and obsessive compulsive behaviors. But it is something, if you need to scratch an itch, but you don't want to go all in and go all the way and really go back into something, you can slowly heal yourself out of like an addiction or OCD like type of behaviors by scratching the itch. Okay, I'm going to get all this stuff, I'm going to shop for it, and then leaving without all of it in your cart, right? Because then you can say, I did have an urge, I did act on that urge, but I didn't go through with it. So those are the ways you can slowly help yourself to support yourself to slowly healing it on your own, right? Okay, so I've talked on this a little bit. Well, I'm going to end the video soon, but I wanted to talk really importantly about the root of this avoidance. So if you're feeling avoidance in your life, and hold on, I want to make sure. Okay, everyone's back. Hi, Kristen. I just want to make sure because people are saying the video is freezing. Okay, cool. So I wanted to talk about the root of avoidance before I go. So avoidance is, if you think about it, if you're avoiding your money situation, right? I want you to think about for a second in your own life right now. If it's not money, what is it? What in your life do you avoid? Do you have an avoidance pattern in general? Do you avoid things in general? Is there something, how else is it showing up in your life? So if you avoid money, it's going to be showing up like, so I know that some of you in here did transformational workshops with me. And in one of the workshops, Kathy Benson, she's a genius. One thing she used to always say that sticks with me to this day that I say to myself all the time is if you show up this way in your life, one way in one part of your life, it's all over your life. That statement hits me right in the gut. If you avoid one thing in your life, avoidance is all over your life. It's all over your life. So really, really, and again, we want to make sure that we're not vilifying ourselves, that we're sitting in acknowledgement of like, yeah, this shit's all over my life. And I get to acknowledge that and love myself through it. It's fine. I do it. I'm in non-judgment of that. It happens. It happens to the best of us. It's cool. But what am I going to do? What's the next step? How do I empower myself to not have it be all over my life? I don't want this following me. I don't want it all over my life. How do I take the first step, right? What's the one first step? So that's part of it. The second part of it is Freud comes in. Childhood. And I know none of us want to look at this. Everyone wants to avoid their childhood. Everyone wants to avoid their mom and dad's patterns. Everyone wants to, there's that thing like, oh my God, my mom would have said that. I'm saying that. I sound like my mom. I sound like my dad. Oh no. Or like, I'm turning into my mom. I'm turning into my dad. What we want to do is make sure that when we're saying that, we're saying it from a place of good, I'm turning into my mom, or good, I'm turning into my dad. Because then we can look at the things that we love or don't love about ourselves and how we avoided maybe things in our childhood or how we were patterned to see things in our lives. So a big part of the root of avoidance in your life is how you saw your parents avoid their problems. So think of one thing, if you are in avoidance of your own life, or if there are things that you avoid in your own life, money or otherwise, what in your life, I want you to give very specific examples, either in this chat or write it down or put it in your, write down this stuff, because you'll want to look at this and you'll want to heal through it. You'll want to use these tips and tricks I used in this video to look at it. You don't have to do all this work about like, oh, I have to heal all this shit right now. Just be aware of it. Right now, we're in this discovery process. So this video and the videos I'm going to be doing for the next coming weeks and the program I'm running about healing your money story is all going to be about discovering patterns, okay? I don't want you to get into your head about like, I need to dispel all these patterns and dissolve all these patterns and be on the right road and make the impact I'm here to make. Don't, just one day at a time, one step at a time. What's one thing your parents in their lives did to avoid their own lives, okay? I want you to know that when you're talking about this stuff, either in this group or with yourself, there's gonna be guilt that comes up. Because in our lives, we will do anything it takes to protect our parents from wrongdoing. We'll say, oh, my mom meant well, but she ... And we'll feel so guilty about saying what they did to us or how they made us feel. Stop that. It's okay to say, my mom did this, and it fucked me up in a lot of ways. It's not judging them. They're there to do that. They're there to damage your idea of who you are, to damage your how you see things in the world. And sometimes the way that they damage the way that you see things in the world is in order for them to be damaged and broken so that you can come in and fix them and say, I'm a healer in my life. And then you can say, Mom and Dad, thank you for breaking me, because now I'm coming in and I'm healing this shit. Thank you for avoiding everything in your lives. You taught me how to avoid everything in my life, and now I'm looking at it. I'm not avoiding it anymore. I'm ending it, right? And so it's important that one of my missions in my life is to help people, to give people knowledge on how to heal that shit now, and how to look at the roots and how to break it apart and not feel so much guilt about like what their parents did to them. It's like we all have situations, no matter how like blessed we were with a great family, a foundational family, we all had situations where we felt like we were not being approved of, where we felt we weren't being heard, where we felt we weren't being listened to, where we felt actually that we were being abandoned or left out in the cold or not supported or not told we were loved. A lot of us in this chat were never told I love you by our parents. Never. And to get to a point where we can say, Mom and Dad, you never told me you loved me. You avoided telling me that you loved me. And what that did to me was made me feel really lonely. And now I'm in a space where I'm really lonely. But now, because I'm really fucking lonely, I understand the importance of connection. Now, how else would you understand the energy of connection and how important that is had you not been in a space where you felt lonely because of that brokenness with your parents? Okay, so I want you to take your victim story, or the story about how, oh, my parents fucked me up, and turn it around into how they did what they did made me who I am, made me understand connection and love in a way I may have not ever understood it before. Okay, I want you to really, really think closely and to write it down about all of this stuff, that how you saw these patterns of survival. And know that the reason that you don't have to feel guilty about saying, my mom and dad fucked me up this way and that way, is because their mom and dad fucked them up in the same way. And the reason that we're here talking about this right now is to end that trauma. The only way that we can end that pattern is to look at it, say, you fucked me up in that way, now I'm fucking up in my own life. I don't want to pass that on to my children, so it ends here. If anybody else hears me right now and they're loving what I'm saying and they understand, please hit love and like, and please say in the chat in huge letter, it ends now. Big caps, it ends now. The trauma ends now. The not telling my kids I love them ends now. The avoidance of my money situation ends now. The avoiding having to look at my parents with my mom or dad with their new family, and the hatred, the self-hatred and the hatred that comes with that, the abandonment that comes with that. It ends here. So that's what I'm here to do. That's what you're here to do. And the reason it happened to you is so that you can heal it, so you stop it in future generations. If you are mad about what's happening right now in the world, it's because if you're mad about what's happening in the world, then you're listening, good. But you're also, part of it is to end the trauma that's happening right now so that it never happens again, instead of talking about it. The more that we talk about it, how it's going on and blah, blah, that's great. We can have debate after debate, but unless you heal it in your own life and say it stops now and stop it for your children and their children's children, it's going to keep happening. So it ends here, it ends now. Say it loud and proud. If you don't want to say it in the chat below, just scream it out in your car. I don't care how you do it, but I want you to know that your voice, your life is important. And show up for yourself in the way your parents didn't show up for you. So if you're avoiding things in your own life, or you're avoiding your money situation, or you're avoiding anything else, look at your parents and how they may have avoided something in their life. It may not even have anything to do with money, y'all. It may be something really way deeper that when you heal that wound, all of a sudden you're not avoiding money anymore and it starts coming in easier. Or it starts to get easier. There's the worry around money, and that's why I say the money, healing your money story. It's not so much how much you have or don't have, it's your thought process around how much money you do have or don't have, right? So like a few months ago, when my money story wasn't healed, and I would have $100 in my bank account, I would freak out, I would be in fear, I would be in worry, I would be in loathing, I would be in self-hatred, I would be in despair. Now when I have $100 in my bank account, I force myself to laugh and look stupid so that I can go, what am I laughing about again? And then really end up laughing, and then forget even what I was thinking about. All the worry and fear dissipates, and money can continue to move and flow how it's supposed to, instead of feeling like it's being restricted, okay? So really, really important stuff to talk about. Love you so much. Have a beautiful night. If you're just joining now, please rewind and play, because there's a lot of amazing information here about avoidance and how to break through that, okay? Love you guys. Talk later. Bye.